Hey friends, welcome back to Al-Anon Recovery Hacks, where we break down recovery into practical everyday tools. If you're ready for more serenity and less chaos, you're in the right place. Before we dive in, just a quick note, I'm not a spokesperson for Al-Anon or any other 12-step group. Everything I share here is based on my own personal experience, strength, and hope. Take what you like and leave the rest. Hey there, YouTubers, welcome back. Or if you're new here, I'm really glad that you found your way to Al-Anon Hacks. Today, I'm going to discuss one piece of advice you might hear about as a newcomer. No major changes in the first 6 months. What does this mean? Why do people keep saying it? And what if you're already in the middle of big changes? In this video, I'm going to break down what the suggestion actually means, why it's helpful for so many people, and when it might not apply. I'll also share a little bit about my experience, how it showed up in my life when I was trying to decide whether to leave my alcoholic partner. Okay, so first off, what does it even mean? No major changes. In Al-Anon, when people say that, they usually mean things like don't move, don't quit your job, don't start or end a relationship, don't make big financial decisions, basically any huge external life moves. That would be something that are considered major changes. The idea is that when you're newly in the program, things are already chaotic. And so instead of shaking up your entire life, in the beginning, give yourself a little more breathing room, space to stabilize before acting. And that breathing room, it can be powerful. I'm going to read a little bit from Courage to Change, February 6th. It says, by the time I reached Al-Anon, I was desperate to do something about my relationship with the alcoholic. I hoped that you would tell me to throw the bum out. So that I was dismayed when a member suggested that I made no major changes for 6 months after coming to Al-Anon. By the end of the 6 months, my thinking had changed dramatically and I was grateful to have waited. Today's reminder, when thinking becomes distorted by trying to force solutions, I probably won't get the results I seek. As the saying goes, when in doubt, don't. So there you have it, straight from the literature, Courage to Change, a reading about waiting 6 months for changes. So let me start with, let's be honest, this is a tough one. You come into Al-Anon, you're looking for help, you're looking for changes. Why on earth would someone say, just sit there and do nothing while everything around you is falling apart? So what this reading is talking about, and what I'll be sharing about, is that you're not avoiding making major decisions to keep you from moving forward in your life. What you're doing is you're waiting so that you don't make decisions from a state of fear, panic, exhaustion. That's not really going to go well. In the first 6 months of Al-Anon, it's likely that you're going to start seeing things differently. The denial is going to be lifting. You might recognize the patterns of dysfunction. You're learning new tools to deal with those dysfunction. You're discovering your part in situations. If you're like me, you might be realizing that some of your solutions have actually been making things worse. I'll share a personal story about why this advice might be helpful for newcomers. Like the reading, when I was early in the program in the first 6 months, I was on the fence about whether I should leave my partner, who was the person who motivated me to try Al-Anon. And every part of me was screaming, just leave him. This is way too painful. And I was working through the first 3 steps with my sponsor. I was going to meetings. My sponsor encouraged me to pause and wait to make any decisions until I felt certain and could make a decision out of love rather than desperation. I gave myself permission to not decide for a while. And then I broke up with my partner and then we got back together. I was not able to really follow through on my decision to break up that first time because I was confused about my part in the relationship and I didn't really know if I continued to work in Al-Anon, would that help me turn things around, whether I could continue to have the relationship and whether I would outgrow it. I was just beginning my 4th step and I really didn't have any idea who I was at that point. And, at one point my partner he did something that really triggered me and I reacted instantly out of fear. And I ended things again. I ended things very abruptly, and I did it without talking to my sponsor or anyone in the program first. It was like very messy. I regret the way I handled the next month or so as we tried to untangle our living situation. I ultimately had to make amends to my partner for step 9 for the way that he acted. Ultimately, I don't regret leaving my partner. What I regret is acting out of fear and haste rather than a place of self-love and compassion for the alcoholic. I regret not talking to my sponsor and not getting support first. If I had done that, I might have saved myself a lot of mistakes and harm to other people. So the moral of the story is that big decisions might be botched early in the program. If you make them later, you've got a more solid emotional foundation. So what are we supposed to do instead? We come into the program, they tell us no major changes, what then? What are we doing? So honestly, it is important to do the work, but this is internal work. And it's stuff that doesn't always show on the outside, but it is transformational. The biggest changes are going to happen inside. And as we attend meetings, we use the slogans. And as we work the steps with the sponsor, we're going to start to detach with love instead of controlling. We are going to be able to say no without guilt. We're going to be able to let go of fixing and rescuing. We're going to learn to sit with feelings instead of stuffing them. We're going to begin trusting our thoughts and our instincts. And it may not sound as dramatic as walking out or moving across the country, but those are huge steps. And I remember the first time that I heard the suggestion that we could start the day over, right? And it didn't sink in immediately, but let me just share an experience of how this little internal, nugget that I got in Al-Anon really helped me. So one day when I was having an argument with my partner, it occurred to me that I could start over. So I just said to him, hey, can we start over? And it totally changed the dynamic. I went from a habit of shutting down and silent treatment and hoping that the other person would read my mind and apologize to actively taking responsibility for communicating. And it was not easy to say those words, but it really set the course of our communication in a different direction. I had changed. Nothing about the other person had changed, but the situation went from being impossible to there's an opening here. So small shifts like that can be the biggest return for our buck early in recovery. Once we're steadier on the inside, the outside stuff doesn't feel quite so overwhelming. So let's be clear, this is a suggestion. It's not a rule. I want to be, flexible. This program is not about rigidity. So there's definitely times when we do need to make major changes, and it can be early on. So what are those situations? Of course, if you are in danger, if your children are in danger, emotionally, physically, otherwise, safety always comes first, always. You may be also in a unique opportunity that shows up, and that you've discussed it with, people you trust. You've gone to your sponsor and you've done some prayer. Your small inner voice is telling you this feels right. It is okay to move forward with those opportunities. The point isn't to live in fear of action. The point is to just pause before reacting from a place of pain and panic. So just ask yourself, am I running from something or am I moving towards something with clarity? So to wrap it up, no major changes in the first 6 months isn't about staying stuck. It's about giving yourself time to grow before making decisions that could affect the rest of your life. Because when you take the time to heal internally, you might be surprised how much more clearly you see everything. If you're in those first 6 months right now, I want you to know it's okay not to have all the answers yet. You're not behind. You're building something strong. It is happening. You might not be able to see it, but underneath, something is changing. So thanks for being here. If this resonated with you, it helped you, I'd love to hear your thoughts or experiences in the comments. And feel free to like or share this video, give it to someone else who's just starting out. But please take care of yourself, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for being here. If today's hack helped, give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who might need it. Don't forget to subscribe for more tools for the journey. And remember, we can't change them, but we can change how we show up. See you next time.